Okay, now if you came back to your tire after you let it sit for a couple hours and you've notably lost some air, where you can see sealant leaking from any place, clean the whole thing up. And a good trick to find out exactly where you're losing air is just a little bit of soapy water and a brush. So, if we had a little bit of soapy water here, and what we can do is go around the bead of the tire, checking carefully if there's any bubbles escaping. It's not a bad idea to do this anyway, just to make sure you have no slow leaks. Also very carefully around the valve, make sure you have lots of bubbles around that valve. Now if you have air escaping anywhere, you're going to see bubbles popping up. It's going to be really easy to see. In this case, no bubbles, no leaks. Let's try around the other bead. Okay, again in this case we've got no leaks. However, if we had a leak, we're going to figure out where exactly that's from and then we're going to correct the issue. The most common leak is going to be from the valve stem. And in most cases, if you have that happen, simple solution, take a set of pliers and in quarter turn increments, turn that lock ring. A little more bubble and see if you stop the leak. In most cases, it's just a simple case of the rubber base of the valve hasn't been pulled down enough into the hole to create a seal. Okay? You want to be really careful when you're doing that though. If you tighten it too much, you can actually rip the rubber base right off the valve stem. So go in tiny increments, be careful not to damage your valve. If you cannot solve your problem that way, what you're going to have to probably do is take the tire off and check the valve, the base of the valve, the rubber base. Make sure there's no cuts in it, any damage from your setup. If that valve is damaged, you're going to have to replace it with a new one. Another problem you might face is small leaks out from around the bead of the rim and the tire. In that case, what you want to do is make sure you've isolated the leak again, find where the bubbles are escaping, bring that to the bottom, make sure you've got all kinds of sealant spread around that area. You can try pumping up the tire again to around 40 psi or nice and hard. Again, squish the sealant around that area and see if it plugs that hole. Could be a tiny deformation in the tire. Now, if that doesn't cease to work, you're going to have to take off the tire, check the bead all the way around, make sure it's clean, there's no deformations in it, no kinks, and then remount again with making sure you've got a full dose of sealant in there. It should take care of it. Okay, another regular issue with setup for tubeless is TIREFIT. As I mentioned before, tubeless ready tires are going to be slightly tighter than a lot of tires you've used in the past. That's a good thing, but in some cases they're going to be quite snug. It's going to be pretty tough to get your tire on with your hands in some cases. In cases where you need to use tire levers, we highly suggest that you get a pair of plastic tire levers and make sure when you get them that they don't have any sharp edges. The reason for that is when you're using the tire lever, if it contacts your tubeless tape, you don't want it to cut little tiny holes in the tubeless tape. It'll be almost impossible to find, and those will lead to leaks later. So, a nice set of rounded plastic tire levers, invaluable tool.